If you're a parent, there's almost nothing more stressful than dealing with a child's concussion. You're doing everything right, following all the doctor's orders, but weeks go by and your kid still complains about headaches or feeling foggy. And you're just sitting there thinking, is this still the concussion? Or is this something else entirely? Well, today we're going to unravel that exact puzzle. And we'll use some fascinating research that might just change the way you think about concussion symptoms for good. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to tackle the post-concussion puzzle itself. Then we'll get into a really surprising fact about symptoms in kids who have never even had an injury. From there, we'll explore what else could be going on beyond the concussion. And finally, the most important part, we'll break down what all of this actually means for you.
All right, let's dive right in. Section 1, the post-concussion puzzle. And it all boils down to one big question. How do we even know what recovered looks like?
This is the question, right? It's the one every parent is desperate to answer. You're just waiting for that moment when you can finally breathe a sigh of relief, knowing your kid is totally back to normal. But here's the thing. The reason it feels so complicated is because it is. The answer, it turns out, is not as simple as just waiting for every single symptom to vanish. A huge piece of the puzzle is this term, persistent post-concussion symptoms. You'd think there would be a clear-cut definition, but there really isn't. A big study pointed out that researchers and doctors are all kind of using different rule books. For some, even one tiny, mild symptom means the concussion's not gone. For others, it's totally different. And when nobody can agree on the definition, it's no wonder it's so hard to get a straight answer. So, if defining recovery is that messy, what if we've been looking at the symptoms themselves all wrong? This brings us to what I think is the most eye-opening part of this whole thing. How often these symptoms show up in kids who have no injury at all. Okay, get ready for this, because this is the single biggest idea that can totally reframe this whole situation. Many of those exact same symptoms we link to concussions, the headaches, feeling tired, trouble concentrating, they're actually super common in perfectly healthy teenagers who have not had a brain injury. And the numbers here are just wow. Researchers looked at data from almost 50,000 student athletes before their sports season even started, so these are healthy baseline kids. What did they find? A whopping 65.3% of uninjured teen girls reported having at least one of these mild symptoms. And it's a really similar story for boys. Over half of them, 54.5%, also said they had at least one mild symptom while being completely healthy. So think about what that means. If more than half of all healthy teens are already feeling these things on any given day, well, maybe aiming for 0 symptoms as our only goal for recovery is setting the bar in the wrong place. Okay, so that leads to a pretty obvious next question, right? If it's not always a concussion causing these symptoms, then what is? This is where we have to look beyond the injury and see what other powerful forces are at play in a kid's life. This chart from the study tells such a powerful story. See those bars on the far left? That's kind of the average. But now look at the group labeled no conditions or health issues. See how low their symptom reporting is? Okay, now compare that to kids who have ADHD or who are dealing with psychological distress. The numbers just skyrocket. It's absolute proof that context changes everything. So what are these big influencers? Well, the study found a few key ones. Things that were there before the injury, like anxiety, depression, or ADHD, those can raise a kid's symptom baseline quite a bit. A history of migraines is another big one. And then you have what's happening right now, like not getting enough sleep or just being stressed out from school or friends. The researchers who did the study summed it up perfectly. They said symptom reporting can be temperamental, situational, or both. Temperamental just means that for some kids, having a headache here and there is just part of their normal. And situational means life is causing it, like stress. You can see how that gets confusing, right? It's almost impossible to know if a lingering headache is from the injury or from the stress of being out of school because of the injury. Okay, so we've looked at the problem, we've seen the surprising data. Let's bring it all home. Let's talk about what this means for you and how we can build a new, less stressful way of thinking about your child's health. I love this table because it makes the shift so clear. The old way of thinking was any symptom must mean the concussion is still there. The new way is symptoms need context. The old goal was to get to 0 symptoms. The new, much more realistic goal is to help your child get back to their normal baseline. And that means we have to stop focusing only on the injury and start looking at the whole child, their sleep, their stress, all of it. Now, I have to be really, really clear about something. The point of all this is absolutely not to ignore your child's symptoms. It's not to tell you not to worry. The goal is to give you information that can lower your anxiety by putting these symptoms in a bigger picture. Of course, a lingering headache is something to talk to your doctor about, but knowing that not getting enough sleep could also be a factor gives you another way to help your child feel better. And really, that's what it all comes down to. It's about changing the question we ask. Instead of just asking, when will this concussion finally be gone, we can ask something way more powerful. What is my child's normal day-to-day baseline, and how can I best support that? Because when you truly know your child's normal, when you know they get headaches during exam week or feel out of it when they're sleep deprived, that is the secret to helping them navigate not just a concussion, but pretty much any health challenge life throws their way.